if you take out all the layers of the machinery to just collect data and do something with it, at the end of the day, how you solve the problem really is with the intelligence at the core. So that's what drove me to AI.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Signal in the Noise. I'm your host, Dan Gaynor, and today we have a very special guest, my colleague, Alex Pinto. He's the Senior Vice President of AI here at Signal AI. And we get a crash course in all things AI, the dumb questions I can ask on your behalf that you've always wanted to know, including what Agentic AI is, LLMs are, and how RAG works. So we get into stuff like what is an AI agent? And how are they being deployed in the corporate context? How our AI is learning and evolving to disrupt the risk and reputation landscape, and looking to the future, Alex's vision for what Agentic AI will be able to do, working hand in hand with you so that you can train your brain into an ultimate chief of staff. Looking forward to a fascinating conversation with Alex Pinto, SVP of AI, here on Signal in the Noise. Welcome, Alex Pinto. How are you?
Hi, Dan. Lovely to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Beaming in from today?
Right now from Lisbon, in a couple of hours from London.
He's a true global citizen. Don't audit his carbon footprint. Tell me a little bit about your career arc. Let's get to know you before we get into the technology. Who's the human being behind this all? Maybe not like, date of birth and everything, but maybe start with post-college.
Post-college. So I spent a couple of years in industry as a software developer, software engineer at the time, an SAP consultant of all things, also working in data quality to begin with. That was about 4 years of jumping between those three categories. And then I went back into academia to do my master's in applied artificial intelligence, invited to do the PhD, pursued the PhD, and then decided to go on to the academic career. And I stayed in the academic career for about 13 years as university professor and researcher in all things AI, machine learning, data science. Took part in a few European research projects, got an award from the EU for an excellent innovation for cognitive model I developed in 2015, 14, 15, 16. Actually, the first time I started working on generative AI, which is not as new as you think, at least in the academic world, for sure it's not.
You were early. If only you had put your money as an investment behind your academic research, I might be on your yacht. So you knew AI was going to be something big early on. Why?
Well, that's a big claim, knowing things, but I always wanted to, from 2002, when I started pursuing AI, I started pursuing that because not only I was really fascinated by human and other kinds of intelligence, other animals' intelligence, the intelligence per se, but that was really the core of the problems on how to address, in that case, even business problems. So that if you take out all the layers of the machinery to just collect data and do something with it, at the end of the day, how you solve the problem really is with the intelligence at the core. So that's what drove me to AI.
Fabulous. You were academia. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, you were in academia. You led these research projects.
Yeah, and then after that, I got an invitation at the time by Accenture, from Accenture, and I joined Accenture as director of data and AI, and I joined them and I was there for about 4 years, leading a data and AI function, building the team there. And after that period, I moved to London and joined a prop tech company in London, Outra, to work on mostly for the real estate sector, predicting when people were about to move homes, whatnot. So using that tool for optimizing digital marketing campaigns for real estate agents, so they would know who to target. And then after that, I joined Signal.
And you're happiest you've ever been, obviously.
Obviously.
Tell me a little bit about what has excited you working here at Signal. We work on risk and reputation. These are really big, really complex, and really opaque challenges. you think about the world of perception, it can come from anywhere. And if you think about risk, particularly for the size of the companies we work with, it can truly come from anywhere. So just tell me about the challenge in terms of scale, scope, and danger that you're wrapping your head around every day.
So there are definitely a few dimensions to the challenge that are really unprecedented in terms of risk intelligence, for example. One is the first signal we need to detect in content to detect if there's a risk is something that has happened, an event that may be causing some disruption to some company or organization, which might be your own organization or your suppliers or your customers or your regulators or competitors, and you want to know about that. Not only want to know with high precision that, but who was involved, in what capacity, when did that happen, where did that happen. So it's not just getting a simple signal, it's a very complex and very informative signal, and you want to get that at scale through millions of documents every single day. And so the complexity of the problem to be addressed is really high, and the scale at which it has to operate is massive. So that is a very juicy challenge to attack.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about how we're attacking that challenge. Let's start with what an agent is. What is an agent? Because it's the new word in AI. By the way, your point about working on Gen AI decades ago is very resonant because everyone thinks it just came out. Have agents existed for a long time? Who are these robots in our pockets?
The notion of agent is much older than the notion of generative AI.
Interesting.
It is. If you go back to the first book that was used by universities across the world as the Bible to teach AI, chapter 2 is entirely dedicated to that, and it was published in 1995, so 30 years ago, when I started studying AI, essentially. So it is, the notion of agent is really old in that sense. Of course, now with the LLMs powering this new kind of way to interact with AI, and now, of course, we label this as agentic AI, it all seems absolutely brand new. So the concept is not new at all. Of course, the new technology gives it a whole other dimension. Absolutely.
Let's talk about that. So could you just first define what an agent is for people who, frankly, only know about maybe ChatGPT's operator?
So very simple. An agent is, in this case, a software agent or an AI agent, if you will, is a piece of software, if you will, that is able to perceive the world, reason about it, and with its own beliefs, desires, intentions, or and its knowledge, and has capacity to act in the world. That's it, to pursue its goals. And if you say this, almost everything falls into this description. If you have an AC equipment with a thermostat, it can sense the temperature of the environment and it can turn on or turn off automatically to achieve its goal, which is desired temperature. Fine. Yes, in the sense, yes, that's a very simple agent. It's a very non-intelligent agent, but it's an agent. So, of course, then you can extrapolate all the way to a Stephen Hawking, whatnot, which is a super incredible intelligent agent.
That's amazing. So right now, the world's really transfixed by agents that can run your laptop, right? They can go on kayak.com and they can look up a flight from Boston to Lisbon, and it can go all the way through, do you want to pick your seat and do you authorize this purchase? That's great in the consumer context. I'm interested in particular your world in the corporate context. We work here with some really big, sophisticated companies who have decisions that, shake tens of millions of dollars one way or another. Tell me a little bit about how you're wrapping your head around the challenge of creating agents for corporate reputation and corporate risk management.
So at Signal, we have, as you know, SKIQ, or agentic interface, or agentic or agent, if you will, that allows you to extract and get the reputation and risk intelligence profile for your company. So it gets all these, it leverages both discriminative and generative AI, two main branches essentially of AI, to identify documents and the risk events that are relevant to your company, to your profile, or to the companies that you care about. So understand your question and break it down into a plan, which is what agents like the one you're exemplifying do, breaks it down, that analysis into a plan, and then executes that plan. In the case of SKIQ, it can use not only all the usual suspects of skills, like taking a question and breaking it down into a plan and then executing it, but it can also use all the functionalities that our web app already has. So it can do all those searches, all those fancy charts, and getting all those trends. So it has all those tools ready to be used. I think that's a very powerful thing to do, because we are basically taking our own already existing web app and we are not breaking it apart, but extracting all of its components, making it into a tool box for the agent to use.
Let's talk a little bit about the machinery behind the scenes, and then we'll pivot to the product that people will be able to interact with, Ask AIQ. Do you want to talk a little bit about what RAG is?
Sure. Okay. So RAG, RAG, retrieval-augmented generation, it's a technique that was born not too long after the ChatGPT revolution, and it was born as a realization that if you just ask, like a ChatGPT, if you just ask a question or a factual question and for which you want a factual answer, in some cases you get a hallucination, because what the model is essentially doing is just predicting the next word, technically a token, but let's simplify things. It's just predicting the next word that it should write out as the answer. It's not drawing from any knowledge it has stored. Actually, allow me the parenthesis. That's one of the mistakes that is most commonly found, is that people think LLMs, large language models, know things. They are large language models. They are not large knowledge models. So if you want to get facts, it's more secure to ask Google for facts than if you want to create something new, ask ChatGPT, fine. But if you want to find facts, search for facts. Or ask AIQ, because what SKIQ does is RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. So you get your question, you retrieve the documents that are relevant to your question, like a Google would do. So now you get your facts, and now you can generate some sort of summary for those bits and pieces of those documents that really relate to your question. Now you get a concise answer, so you generate the answer after your retrieval. So it's your retrieval augmented generation.
I like to think of it, and forgive me if I'm really screwing with your excellent explanation, but I think of it like a private chef, which is, there's one way to do it, which is, what do you have in the fridge? And if you only have olives and 3-week-old cheese, there's only so many things that you can create that are reliably good meals. But what RAG allows you to do is send a private chef out who grabs the documents, or in my analogy, the groceries, the ingredients that you would really want to make a really, in this case, delicious meal or accurate search happen. Okay, so you do RAG. Your private chef goes out there, grabs all the groceries, it makes you this excellent meal. Let's talk about the ways that you can structure the output. So as it goes today, this allows folks to more seamlessly interact with our web app, to use natural language to get metrics and to get summaries of that information. Let's start there, like what you can do today. And then the next question is going to be about where's this headed in terms of the sophistication for C-suites. But what can it do today powered by this technology?
So you can generate your reputation, your risk reports, asking not just by looking around the app and clicking here and there, but just asking, I want a report about how sentiment about my company has been evolving over the past 6 months, and you get your chart.
No more clicking buttons, no more, adding competitors, et cetera. It's just there.
As if you were to ask your own collaborator, hey, can you get me this chart, please? You don't need to open his brain and click, right? You just ask the question and you go away, and hopefully, if a couple of minutes, well, in the case of AskIQ, you don't have to waste minutes, but you get your chart. And actually, you can say, actually, I don't want a bar chart, I want a pie chart. And it will redo the chart for you. I have to say, when curiosity, and that's, I think, one of the characteristics of AskIQ and all the effort we've been putting on AskIQ, even the perplexities of the world, by the way, and I think most people would know that right now, there's a big difference between the ChatGPT and the Perplexity. Perplexity is much more of a RAG system, so it's much more of a search for it, and then summarize the results. So it's much more factual than ChatGPT. But still, when Perplexity gives you the answers, it comes up with references. Only about 60 to 80% of the time, the references, they exist. They are not hallucinations, as it could possibly be with ChatGPT, but only 60 to 80% of the time, those references are actually relevant to the question. So there's a good chunk of the references that don't really matter, or they don't contain any information about that's relevant for the answer. In the case of SKIQ, recently finally got that evaluation, and our references are 95% accurate.
Crazy. How?
Beating the hell out of the perplexities of the world.
Yeah, how? I mean, Perplexity is this, AI stalwart. I think I saw, the latest valuation numbers and the $20 billion. But their references, aka the information that the system is using to produce an answer for you, is not even 80% accurate. How is it that Ask AIQ is able to get so close to 100%?
Well, there's a variety of reasons, and I won't go into the technicalities, but one aspect of it is the fact that we are also not attacking the whole world of problems. We're just focusing on risk and reputation space. Of course, that reduces the scope, so it reduces the problem to be solved, which means you can also use all sorts of techniques to optimize for this problem space. So we focus on this niche, if you will. So we are really good at this niche. We don't care about predicting flight.
Let's talk a little bit to the future. So you're a big vision guy, which I admire greatly. And I would be interested, what do you hope is the future of Ask AIQ? What kind of briefs, recommendations, et cetera, should it be able to produce for you?
So right now, as I said, what we're doing at SKIQ, we are already allowing it to pick and choose all the functionalities we already built in the platform, can use that. For me, the next step for SKIQ is having building the capacity for the agent to learn from the end user. And this means teaching your own version, your own personalized version of SKIQ, a new skill. Like you teach a dog a new trick, if you give him enough of basic capabilities, like sending an email, searching the web, that's done. But sending an email or some of these fundamental skills, then you can teach your agent new mega skills that combine all of this into your own personalized workflow. And then you have your own version of SKIQ, which is your concierge, if you will, private.
Pretty cool. Having a chief of staff that goes with you and is infinitely capable and frankly smarter than you.
And it grows with you as you teach it more and more new skills. It really becomes personalized to you and to your company.
Let's say somebody's listening to this and they've just received access to Ask AIQ. What would be some of the questions you would encourage them to ask it to start?
I would immediately want to ask, I want to know my reputation and risk profile right now and how it has evolved over the past 3-6 months. First of all, I'd like to see the current status of my company, my competitors, my suppliers, my customers, the regulators I care about that could influence me. So I want to see the lay of the land right now and compare that to what I already know. And then, of course, be amazed at how things match. And then, so now that you are happy with that, now you can start looking into the less obvious things.
I love that. That's so cool. And the ability to quantify some of these asks, I think, is what's most powerful. It's one thing to get natural language back, and that's really important to facilitate your own personal understanding. But for so many communications and risk leaders, they need to produce charts and data that go up the chain to quantify their recommendations, prove their impact, mitigate risk. The ability to create visualization, I think, is a really cool element as well.
That's exactly one of the things that's really important about this. It's not just getting a natural language interaction. It's really good that you can ask your question in natural language, but your answer doesn't have to be all natural language. which is essentially what you get with ChatGPT. Well, now you can generate images, but now with AskIQ, your answer is multimodal. It can have text, it can have images, your charts and whatnot, and you can summarize those charts. And that's really powerful, of course. And ultimately, you'll be able to generate your entire report and export it to a PDF and get it scheduled, sent to your inbox every day at 9 a.m. or once a quarter, however you want it.
You can train your brain into your own personal Ask AIQ coming soon. I'm holding your feet to the fire on that promise. That's really cool. Well, in the meantime, how can folks access Ask AIQ?
Oh, you just reach out to Signal AI.
That's right. It's in the web app, our platform. So you have the ability to go in, and once it's turned on for you, and if it's not, let us know. But once it's turned on from you, it's literally a button push away. You can save a search and boom, all of a sudden you're looking up every possible story about Nike or any other cool company out there, what your reputation is, what your risk profile looks like, charts and visualizations that bring it to life, and be able to make much faster data-informed decisions consequently. I'm really, really excited that we had a chat about this, Alex. And I just wanted to ask, there's a lot of folks out there who I talk to in this space, this is more human, who are just like, how do I learn more about AI? How do I get started? How do I test? And I would just be interested, when you go to dinner with somebody who's like, oh, wow, you've been working on this field for 30 years and I've only known about it for a few months, but I really want to get into it. What are some ways to start experimenting? What are just some core ways that you can, as a regular person who doesn't have a software background, get immersed in the world of AI on a day-to-day basis, whether it's using Ask AIQ or any other tool out there?
It depends a lot on what you want to do with AI and how deep you want to go. If you want to go deeply into the technical stuff and build LLMs from scratch yourself, that's a different ballgame.
Let's assume that this might be a little over most people's heads.
Yeah, you can do it. But I'd say, yeah, you can just start by, there are some really nice intro videos on YouTube that you can watch for sure, just to get the gist of it. Some really good visualizations on how it works under the hood. But yeah, actually, you can ask the likes of ChatGPT some good intros on AI.
Alex, thanks so much for hopping on with us for Signal in the Noise. And of course, if you are interested in learning more, talking to Alex himself, we'll make him accessible to you. And in the meantime, thanks so much for joining us on a deep dive into our brand new, very cool Ask AIQ agent.
Thanks for having me, Dan.